Imagine you're sitting across from Steve Jobs. He leans in, cool and calm, and he says, "Your product? It's a feature, not a company, and we're gonna kill you." That's not just a diss, it's a warning shot from the most ruthless man in Silicon Valley. And if you're Drew Houston, founder of Dropbox, what do? You fight back and you build a $10 billion empire. But to understand how Dropbox survived Jobs, scaled like crazy, and is now praying that AI will save its future, we've got to rewind back to when file storage sucked. In 2007, if you wanted to access a file on another computer, you emailed it to yourself, or you carried a USB drive that you forgot half the time. Drew Houston was living that pain, literally. On a bus ride between Boston and New York, laptop in his lap, deadline approaching, no USB in sight. He'd forgotten it. That frustration turned into a question. What if your files could just follow you? That was the idea. Simple, obvious, personal. Today it seems almost laughable. Drew started sketching the first version of Dropbox right there on the bus. A magic folder that lived in the cloud, always up to date. No syncing nightmares, no weird pop-ups, no effort. He called it Dropbox. Shortly after, he applied to Y Combinator with a demo so smooth it almost seemed boring. A folder that syncs to the cloud. But investors just got it, and fast. Sequoia Capital, one of the biggest firms in Silicon Valley, led a $1.2 million seed round right out of demo day. And Drew wasn't building alone anymore. He teamed up with Arash Firdausi, a fellow MIT student who dropped out to join him full-time. Their obsession? Make Dropbox invisible. No setup, no syncing errors, no learning curve. If users ever had to think about Dropbox, it was broken. And that mindset shaped everything. In 2008, they launched publicly at TechCrunch 50. Back then, that was magic. People were floored. And just like that, Dropbox had its brand. It just works. No jargon, no explanation, no fluff. Just a clean, reliable tool solving a problem everyone hated. While users were falling in love, Drew was staring down the next big question. How do we get millions of people to use this without spending millions on ads? By 2008, Dropbox had launched. It worked. It really worked. And for a tiny team with no marketing budget, that wasn't just nice, it was everything. The product was simple, fast, magical. But magic alone doesn't get you millions of users. Drew and Arash had to answer one brutal question. How do you scale without spending money you don't have? They couldn't afford a Super Bowl ad. They couldn't do TV commercials or influencer partnerships. So they built something better, a growth engine inside the product itself. The Dropbox referral program was pure genius. Invite a friend, you get 500 megabytes of free storage. Your friend signs up, they get 500 megabytes too. Click, send, boom. 2 clicks, 0 friction, free storage. And here's the kicker. That referral prompt appeared exactly when you were the happiest. Right after your first successful file sync. Right when you realized, holy crap, this actually works. This wasn't luck, it was engineered virality. Why did it explode? Reciprocity. Both sides win. Timing. It hit right when dopamine was high. Simplicity. No forms, no hoops, just click and share. And it worked better than anyone expected. Then they poured gasoline all over it. Dropbox went from 100,000 users to 4 million to over 50 million by 2011, all without spending anything on traditional advertising. Let that sink in. 3,900% growth without buying a single ad. Wow is right. It was so amazing that the referral program is now studied in marketing textbooks. But at the time, it was just survival instinct. So what's the lesson here for founders? You can't engineer virality. Don't hope users will share your product. Design it into the experience. Find the moment when satisfaction peaks. Prompt users to share right then and reward both sides. Make it effortless. And most importantly, make the product good enough that people want to share it. But here's the thing about virality. It gets attention. And in Dropbox's case, it got the wrong kind. Their next big user wasn't a college student or a startup founder. It was Steve Jobs. And he was not impressed, or at least that's what he said. Steve invited Drew Houston to Apple headquarters, sat across the table from him, and said what only Jobs could say with a straight face. Your product, it's a feature, not a company, and we're gonna kill you. Then he offered to buy Dropbox. Drew obviously said no, so Jobs did what Jobs does. He went nuclear. Overnight, Dropbox wasn't alone anymore. The tech giants came in swinging. With unlimited cash, default installs, massive platforms, and best of all, they could afford to offer storage for free. So how did Dropbox survive when all the big dogs were entering their space? Why didn't they get crushed? Well, because Dropbox had built something the giants didn't understand. A behavioral moat.
Oh, it's a moat.
You see, Dropbox didn't ask users to change how they worked. It just fit. Already saving files in your desktop folders? Cool, Dropbox just synced them. Already collaborating across devices? Done. It just worked. No move to iCloud, no save as a Google Doc, no need to learn a new system. Dropbox wasn't a new habit, it was the same habit, just enhanced. That made switching full of friction. Not just annoying, emotionally disruptive. Google Drive, great for docs, terrible for basic file storage. iCloud only worked inside the Apple ecosystem. Dropbox, it worked everywhere. It didn't win with features, it won with habit. So what's the lesson? Build behavioral moats. Features fade. Pricing can be matched, but habits, those are sticky. If your product becomes part of someone's routine, they won't just like it, they'll need it. Dropbox didn't outspend Apple, they out-habited them. But as Dropbox fought the giants, a new storm was brewing. The very thing that made Dropbox explode, free users, was about to become its biggest threat. By 2012, Dropbox was flying. 4 million users in 2009, 50 million users in 2010, over 100 million by 2012. It was one of the fastest growing startups in Silicon Valley. But behind the scenes, they were being chloroformed to death by their own users. Why? Because almost none of those users were paying. Dropbox was the king of freemium and it was about to crush them. Only about 2% of users converted to paid plans. The other 98% cost money to serve, and storing all those files, petabytes of them, wasn't cheap. Every cat video, PDF, and group project lived on Amazon Web Services, which meant every free user came with a bill. The more they grew, the more money they lost. Dropbox had walked into the freemium trap, and the company was waking up. Suddenly, their biggest strength, growth, had become an existential threat. So what do? Do you start throttling users? Do you cut back on features? Ruin the product that got you here and chase away all of your users? Or do you gamble everything on a moonshot infrastructure play? Drew and the team chose to build. They launched a secret internal project codenamed Magic Pocket. The idea was bold. Move Dropbox off AWS, build their own storage infrastructure from scratch, own the cloud, control the costs, reclaim their future. It would take years, millions of dollars, and if it failed, Dropbox would die. But if it worked, they'd save the company. This wasn't a sexy new feature that users were going to experience. There was no slick UI. There was no launch event. It was deep, technical, operational hell. This was Dropbox's make it or break it moment. And in 2016, Magic Pocket launched. Their gross margins skyrocketed from 33% to 67% practically overnight. Suddenly, Dropbox wasn't just popular, it was profitable. Magic Pocket wasn't a growth feature, it was an escape hatch, and it worked. So what's the lesson here? Make strategic infrastructure bets. Understand your unit level economics. Sometimes the most important product isn't customer facing. When scale outpaces margin, you can't just grow, you have to rethink your foundation. Infrastructure isn't glamorous, but it is survival. Know your tipping point, and when you hit it, move fast. Take the pain early. Dropbox had hit theirs, and they bet everything to fix it. Dropbox was now ready for the next chapter. The company wasn't just the viral folder anymore. It was a real business ready to go public. It's March 23rd, 2018, and after 10 years of grinding, Drew Houston stood at the NASDAQ podium. Dropbox was officially public, valued at almost $10 billion. It was one of the biggest wins Y Combinator had ever seen. But here's the thing no one tells you. Going public, it's not the end, it's the beginning. It's the start of your hardest fight yet, because now you don't just have to beat competitors. You have to outgrow your own past. Wall Street didn't care how Dropbox got there. They only cared about what came next. And so, like a lot of newly public companies, Dropbox did what they felt natural. They were flush with cash and they went on a shopping spree. Mailbox, carousel, paper. The plan? Expand beyond just storage. Become the productivity hub for everything you do online. Your files, your photos, your documents, your emails, all flowing through Dropbox. It was ambitious, it was bold, and it almost worked. But here's the brutal truth. Mailbox never integrated cleanly. Carousel confused users, and paper, while good, struggled against Google's momentum. Internally, focus started to fragment. The Dropbox that had obsessed over invisible simplicity was now pulling itself into a dozen messy directions. Innovation slowed, momentum slipped. The magic of it just works was fading. And Drew Houston had to make a brutal call. They had to kill Mailbox, kill Carousel, and refocus the company hard. It was painful, it was public, it hurt morale, but it was the right move. You see, when you're winning, expansion feels inevitable. More features, more markets, more stuff. But the greatest companies don't just innovate, they protect their focus ruthlessly. So as a founder, you need to define your core. Test small, kill distractions fast, and sadly, Dropbox learned it the hard way. But by 2019, Dropbox was slimmer, sharper, and hungrier. That said, a new, even bigger problem was waiting for them. Cloud storage itself was dying. By late 2019, cloud storage wasn't special anymore. Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Apple, all offering more storage. Bundled, cheap, basically free.
This is free real estate.
Dropbox's once magical feature, effortless file sync, now looked like just another button on the apps you already used. Steve Jobs' statement was becoming Drew's reality. Stay a commodity, a feature of another product, or reinvent Dropbox entirely. Just like he did in 2012, Drew chose reinvention. This time, the vision was simple but bold. Dropbox wouldn't just store your files. It would help you work smarter with them. Dropbox had to become more than a folder. It had to become a workspace, a place where contracts were signed, documents were shared securely, workflows were managed, not just storage. And they moved fast, buying up HelloSign to handle e-signatures right inside Dropbox, DocSend for secure document sharing and real-time analytics, and FormSwift to create, edit, and manage forms seamlessly. They weren't vanity buys. They were chess moves, expanding Dropbox's reach into what users were already doing with their files. Each acquisition deepened Dropbox's grip on critical workflows, contracts, proposals, reports, forms. No extra apps, no jumping tabs, no friction, just work. Done faster, smarter, simpler. So when your main product becomes a commodity, you have two options: panic and fight on price, or evolve strategically around the core value you already own. That's how you stay essential when your original edge fades. And just as Dropbox found its footing, the world changed.
Oh, come on!
It's March 2020, offices closed, commutes vanished, and remote work wasn't a niche trend anymore. Dropbox had a choice: sit back and wait for normal to return, or go all in on what the future was clearly becoming. They chose all in. In October 2020, Dropbox announced a radical move: virtual first. They weren't just allowing remote work, they were eliminating offices at the center of work. From now on, remote by default. Office spaces turned into flexible team studios. Collaboration redesigned for a virtual world. It wasn't just a COVID response, it was a permanent strategic bet. Dropbox didn't just support remote work, it embodied it. And it made sense. Their core product, files, collaboration, workflow, was built for distributed teams. Now, their internal structure matched their mission, but reinvention always has a cost. In 2021, Dropbox laid off nearly 300 employees. Brutal, to say the least. But this wasn't about saving money. It was about realigning the company for a fully remote, async, streamlined future. Less bloat and more focus. On top of that, they doubled down on integrations. Slack, Zoom, Microsoft Teams. Dropbox wasn't just storage anymore, it was becoming the connective tissue for remote teams worldwide. Great companies like Dropbox don't just survive crises, they leverage them. They act decisively. They align operations to new realities. They double down on their core strengths. Dropbox didn't cling to the old world, they built for the new one. While other legacy companies stumbled into remote work, Dropbox owned it, and it bought them time. But deep down, Drew Houston and the team knew remote work alone wouldn't be enough. There was an even bigger wave coming, and if Dropbox missed it, all the reinvention in the world wouldn't save them. By 2023, remote work was everywhere, but a new monster had emerged: information overload. Files weren't just scattered across laptops anymore, they were everywhere. You didn't just need storage, you needed a map, a way to find anything, anywhere, instantly. And Dropbox saw the opportunity. Their solution? Dropbox Dash. Not just a better folder, not just a smarter storage, a universal search bar for your entire digital life. Dash wasn't just an upgrade, it was a second founding moment for Dropbox. They weren't competing with Google Drive or iCloud any longer, they were solving an even bigger problem. It's easier to search the internet than your own stuff. Dropbox wasn't a file system, it was becoming your second brain. A tool to navigate chaos, a tool to think faster, move smarter, work better. When the world changes, great companies don't slap on new features, they return to the root problem and reimagine the solution. They rethink from scratch. They solve real pain. Let your product and identity evolve. Dropbox didn't cling to storage, they chased user problems, not nostalgia. And in doing so, they gave themselves a second life, or a third, or whatever life you want to call it at this point. When the world changes, great companies don't slap on new features, they return to the root problem and reimagine the solution. They rethink from scratch. They solve real problems. Let your product and identity evolve. Dropbox didn't cling to storage, they chased user problems, not nostalgia. And in doing so, they gave themselves a second life, or third, of whatever life they were on at this point. The Dropbox journey isn't just about one great idea, it's about constant reinvention. They didn't rest on their laurels. They were surviving copycats. They were outlasting commoditization. They were leveraging crises and rethinking the core problems and the new problems that were created by the evolving landscape. Building a SaaS giant, it's not a straight line. It's brutal, it's beautiful, but it's a cycle of focus, reinvention, and relentless forward motion. Dropbox made it through, and if you're building today, you'll have to do the same. If you're struggling to scale a SaaS company and trying to build something amazing, hit subscribe. I want to help SaaS operators learn how to build something that truly lasts. Thanks for watching. Now go build. See ya.